Awesome. All right, Marissa. So thanks so much for being on here with me today. And
Mhm.
how are you feeling today? How's your Friday going?
Not too bad. Just really eager to wrap up work. Fall just started, but there's some sun out, so definitely just want to get outside and relax until Monday.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I feel you there. Yeah, it's really beautiful out. So hopefully we'll get you out there quickly. So just as a heads up, who this video is for, it's really for people who maybe are in a similar place to you as you were several weeks ago or a few months ago, where maybe they're struggling with food, their relationship with food, maybe a little bit with their body image, struggling with binge eating, and or maybe they've been in and out of diets and they're tired of that cycle and they want to break free of it. But they're looking for some kind of change, some kind of way
Yeah.
out, some kind of hope. So I wanted to start out with like where you were at before we started working together, like around that time. What was a day in the life of Marissa?
Yeah, of course. So I've definitely had a lot of eating patterns, disordered eating, history of yo-yo dieting, starting a plan, then stopping, and just was really preoccupying a lot of my life and taking up really a lot of my just emotional energy trying to just live my life, but also plan, okay, when am I going to eat? What am I going to eat? What's a good food? What's a bad food? What's an approved food? And almost, to be honest, like half my life, and definitely feeling, getting to a point where it was, just such a burden. And it turns out we had a mutual acquaintance that had introduced me to your Instagram feed and gave me your contact information. And reading about kind of your background on Instagram and a lot of the stuff you were saying, I was like, this is the first time that I've really looked for help and really felt a lot of kinship and really felt a lot of the similar things. There's always been books that were recommended to me or websites. And I just felt it's like, okay, this is similar, but not really relatable, especially if it's someone that you've never met before and they've written a book versus someone who is like, oh, cool, you live locally. You write about a lot of the stuff online that I've like, it's just preaching to the choir, like a lot of it where I really identified with that and really wanted to make that step forward as far as, I don't want to say taking care of this, but actually finding a solution that's not just feeling like it's a diet or feeling like it's a quick fix, actually taking those steps to really look at what are my thinking patterns in regards to binge eating, or what are my emotions like, or what is my body image that, a lot of this is just playing into. But even from the start, I remember you sending me all the uh, information, and it was like, wow, like this gal like has her stuff down. And it was a little like daunting at first because it was like what to expect from this program. But I think moving forward, it was just really helpful to kind of lay all my cards out and say, okay, here's what I'm dealing with, and having that vulnerability and honesty about what I needed.
Yeah, and you did such an amazing job of being open and vulnerable about what was going on, which obviously always really helps me to help you. Um, but yeah, so tell me, like, what was kind of like your biggest frustration at the time, or fear? What was it that was driving you to be like, okay, I need actually to work with somebody else, like to get some
Yeah.
support?
Yeah. So I had been kind of trying to do it on my own, so to speak. I had gone to a um, kind of healthcare practitioner with a psychiatry background, but not a lot of history with eating disorders and or even binge eating specifically, which is such a specific type of disordered eating. And talking about Vyvanse and Prozac, and here's good books, or here's good researchers, or a dietitian. But I think in my mind, that was all. It's like, that's great. I know how to eat healthy, or I can be told how to eat healthy, but it doesn't really matter if I just don't feel like I have any control or
Mhm.
the right sort of mindset when it even comes to eating, much less what to eat, but even like, you know, how much to eat, or, if, you know, talking about good foods and bad foods and having a history of dieting and tracking food, just really trying to do it on my own and kind of think, okay, I know myself best. So, but even the introduction of, say, even from a healthcare standpoint, really didn't help. It was, having medication that are really stimulating and, kill your appetite. But then I just found, okay, once that medication wears off, the binging is still there. It's just, kind of a quick fix if it's not paired with the right sort of, you know, just either like talk therapy or kind of, the cognitive, new way of thinking. So that was a huge roadblock. And I think that was the thing that prompted to be like, I can throw as much money to see a provider or medicine. I can do all that. But in the end, it's just kind of a quick fix, or it's just kind of, it's not really like solving the problem.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you there. And so you really wanted to solve the problem for real. And then also you tried a couple of like you tried kind of researching on your own, and even gotten help, but it
Mhm.
wasn't the right kind that you needed. Um,
Exactly.
okay, yeah. And so the other thing I wanted to ask you about is like so as the day in the life of before we worked together, like how did it impact? I know you said it like took your energy away and your focus away from
Mhm.
other stuff in life. How did it affect other areas in your life? I know one important one to you was your relationship, right?
Yeah. So I felt like, binge eating, as opposed to other kind of ways of thinking, it was really like a secretive habit. It was something that was shameful and, not something that is really easy to talk about, or even can
Mhm.
be difficult to talk about, if binge eating, other people who might not be as familiar with you, or just maybe, trying to, you know, meaning well, but saying like, oh, you're just eating too much, or you just need to try this diet plan or this type of food or cleanse or what have you. I think it's hard to explain to people, where it's like, no, like there's sometimes where it's very almost out of my control, and it's actually really destructive. But you're correct that especially the people that you're closest to, it feels like something that you almost have to sit down and explain and kind of wait to see how that, they're going to react or support you. But it was also definitely taking a toll on, even my physical well-being, just feeling not just mentally exhausted from having to put all the energy in of figuring out, oh, I'm going to, restrict eat all day and then diet, or, binge eat at night, but also with feeling physically worn out of eating so much food and then passing out, or having, crashing from all the sugar or salt or what have you. So it was from multiple angles of just exhaustion and really feeling like this is not sustainable. And I need some help here.
Yeah. And again, I really acknowledge you for doing that. I mean, for a lot of people, they go through that and they still don't reach out because it can be scary. And I mean, I know for me, I put it off for like a good 4 years at least,
Mhm.
when I finally even knew that I needed help. So, okay, so there you were dealing with that. You heard about me from our hairdresser, which was so wild. And then what happened when you started working with me? How did things start to shift?
Yeah, so it's for me, it was, I think we talked about this once. I was like, oh, this is easy. Like, there's new way, but then, it wasn't. I think the main thing for me is when it was on my own. I was trying to solve it with, I'm trying to resolve binge eating with more restrictive dieting, or, diet plans. So that just made it worse, even though my thoughts were, oh, well, if I lose weight, I'm not going to binge eat, or if I get on a regular diet plan. And no, that was just perpetuated the cycle. So I think when talking to you, it's just like, I liked it because it wasn't one of those things, if some people try to do something that is like, well, you need to change this and this and this and this, it was just like, okay, just, small changes, and being really kind of more observant and mindful of not even just your eating patterns, but like that one, there was an exercise that you did that was like right from the point to where you wake up and describe, all the moments going throughout the day. I'm like, this is pretty tough because, it really made me examine what I'm doing with like my life and my time outside of work, aside from, it was kind of shocking to me where I'm like, oh gosh, like how much of this time is binge eating? And, really looking at myself as a person, and, not dwelling on the past and how long I've, been dealing with this, but looking to the future and be like, wow, this really doesn't have to control my life. And I have options. And doing a lot of self-reflection, like it was tough to just feel like, you know, I'm not a perfect person, but I think, step by step, it was just 1 week at a time of, talking with you on a weekly basis and kind of all the information that you've developed. It's like simple, but it's also going back to basics was really difficult to just kind of almost reset myself of, you know, ignore all the rules about eating and your body, and let's just start with what I know to be true, and looking at, why have I developed certain ideas of, I can't eat after this time at night, or I shouldn't eat this particular type of macronutrient in the morning. Just really going from the ground up, like it's pretty humbling to just be like, to be vulnerable and just to say, I'm starting fresh with you, and let's take it from there, and do it on a week by week basis. It wasn't something that was just like, okay, bam, like thanks for reading that, I'm cured. Like, and yeah, there's some particularly rough days that it's just like, okay, like I can approach a stressful time or maybe an emotional time with food or binging, but I also have other options. And it's really taken, those weeks of spending time with you and talking, and kind of a lot of, meditation and reflection with myself. But when I first started, it was pretty daunting.
Hmm. Yeah. And I do remember, like, totally tell me if I'm wrong, but I do remember like a few weeks in, or maybe it was like, it was somewhere around 4 to 6 weeks in. And I remember you saying you had originally started out kind of like daunted, but that like we talked about kind of everything you'd actually accomplished so far. And it was like, oh, like some of that was like a little bit easier than I had expected, or it
Mhm.
just kind of like happened in the process. Is that right?
Totally. Yeah, I do remember that, because it was like, until you put all it was just like a collection of, once you put all those kind of little victories and efforts together, it's like, okay, wow, like I've actually come a long way. And, I think as a society, it's just like, no, quick fix, like just do it now, get it done. Like, 7 days, you're good. It's like, no, this has taken a few weeks, but then in that particular time frame, like there's been a lot of successes.
Yeah. Well, and the coolest thing too about that is it's like we look for these quick fixes, and oftentimes those looking for and jumping on those quick fixes is what makes us end up not getting fixed, taking it slow, because we keep having to go back and yo-yo,
Mhm.
versus like taking the little steps. We think it's slow, but actually it's like all of a sudden 6 weeks is not very long, and
Exactly.
progress. Um, so awesome. So, and that kind of brings me to so you started working with me, and what I'm curious about is like, what did you think you would have to do? And like, how was it different than you expected?
Admittedly, just I'm so tailored to like say like Weight Watchers, where it's like, we're gonna get you on it. I was like, is there gonna be a diet plan? I don't know how that's gonna work, or like a workout plan. But it was really listening to myself. And I think too, that was what was so frustrating in the past. It was like these plans that were not they were like one size fits all, like depending on what your history was, it's just like the same for everyone as far as the solution to overcoming this. And it was, I think with working with you, it just because I had that weekly feedback as far as like, here's what happened for the week, or here's what's frustrating, compared to, yeah, something like going to, say just like a regular gym or having a personal trainer or a dietitian, um, just them saying, okay, here's what you need to do. Does that sound good? And it was so much more collaborative and like a cooperative effort of myself. You're not telling me, oh, you need to eat this, this, and this. I think the guidelines you had, and what I liked is that was introduced much later, because I know if I had started with the beginning of like, you should eat this or not eat that, that's exactly what got me to binge eating in the first place. So yeah, I definitely expected like, oh, am I going to get like a meal plan or things like that? And no, that wasn't it at all. This was not a diet plan or a weight loss plan. If anything, this was like, I don't even know what I just like, just resetting your brain almost to just, when you have triggers, not just, automatically thinking like, oh, I need to binge to resolve this. Or there are certain times when I'm binging and where you would just stop and say like, why am I feeling this way? Am I tired? You know, am I actually hungry and I just didn't eat? Kind of really not treating your brain as the enemy, but really looking at how it works. Like your brain is an organ and it's gonna crave certain things. And so that just made sense. It's like, well, if I'm not, oh, I cut out all bread and pasta, but then I really want to binge on that and like binge on multiple servings. So maybe I think maybe I should just, keep that in my diet if it's something that is just continually, causing me to binge and crave it. But yeah, really knowing that, I think I mentioned when we talked before, kind of like the biology standpoint of, talking about your body and your brain, and, it's not out to get you, but it's just learning about how it works and how your body works to kind of be like, okay, yeah, like I'm my own individual person and my body has its nutritional needs. So, where can I start, improving that relationship and not just, you know, inhaling, a party size bag of chips.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I'm glad you shared that, because I know I can't even name the number of people who have talked with who, like, yeah, the things that they're trying are like more diets, Weight Watchers. Like, it's not like these things are bad, but it's like more ways of like kind of trying to force themselves into doing the good thing or
Mhm.
restricting. And yeah, it's like if so many people would benefit from just even the simple act of letting go of that, like allowing themselves to just eat as they please, because it's magical sometimes the way that gets rid of these kind of taboo cravings and just wanting to binge on tons of it, tons of the bag of chips or ice
Mhm.
cream. So great. And then as far as I kind of wanted to get like a specific from you, like what was something that was triggering for you that you find no longer is triggering?
Um, honestly, I remember talking in our sessions, like for me, like boredom was really triggering. Um, and I can recognize it sometimes now. It's not, it's always interesting where you go back and you're realizing like, oh gosh, like this is a trigger. And it's not, for me, that was another thing that had come with, reading books that people had triggers like, oh, I binge eat because maybe something traumatic happened, or I grew up with, a parent, who was dieting. But for me, I was like, I kept trying to assign like blame or to say, or reflect on myself like, okay, gosh, I'm, an inferior person. I guess I have this problem. But then just looking at like maybe there isn't a reason. Like maybe I binge. And for me, I really found out that it's because like, yeah, there were days like where I would restrict so much for the sake of dieting and then binge, and it would just be a cycle. But um I think just, you know, for me, like looking back, gosh, I think for me it just came down to like boredom, where it was like binge eating and eating, like that just had become like a hobby of mine to de-stress. And, even when I wasn't hungry, but now looking back, and it's like I've had so much time that I've spent doing this, and in the meantime found alternative avenues to alleviate boredom. But it was just almost like, got to fill that space with something.
Yeah.
And as silly as that seems in hindsight, I'm the kind of person that's like, go go go, like at work, and then I go home, and then just like didn't really know, okay, I have this time to myself and I'm alone. So that, for me, that's what I latched on as like as my kind of go-to. And it's in society, eating is comfort and familiarity, and it's a social thing. But for me, it got so wrapped up into like guilt and shame that it was really hard, moving forward, to be like, okay, you know I remember talking about binge eating versus just overeating, because for me, like everything was treated as a binge. If I ate too much and felt a little full, that was a binge, which led to guilt, which led to more eating later, and just a really vicious cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, so much. Yeah, I totally get that. It's we have to break some of that, even just excess guilt, and again, more of those rules around food that are just making it actually worse. Um, Thanks for sharing that. So that kind of brings us into where we're at now.
Mhm.
So what are some of those things that you've started to fill that space with now, and what does it look like for you, a day in the life now that we're through with this program?
Yeah, so it's basically, I've another part of the program was starting to make sure I'm eating enough during the day. So I really love your meal prep program. I have my plate here over here at work, just to make, if anything, that's my schedule has really shifted to binge eating and not being able to sleep, and staying up late, to getting an early start in the morning at 6 a.m. and either making some food, and just even in the day, like not, I don't even have to be, I'll get up and watch the news or play some video games. And then what I found, that coming home from work or even like on a weekend, then that leads me to not having an upset stomach and staying up late, just filling my time with actually spending more times with friends and family. Been doing a lot of pub trivia. I am definitely into video games, so catching up on some of those. But yeah, just spending more time, even with like even video games with friends and things. But also participating more in some social groups locally. But really just feeling like that was just something that was my hobby. And it was a little hard, it was kind of like bittersweet to let go of, because that was it was reliable, it was familiar, and kind of getting out there. And sometimes in situations where it's like, okay, this isn't the same as being at home and doing this. And that being said, there's I have to look at from the other way of like, there's no, if you want to, if it's been a rough day and I want to be at home, and maybe get like some ice cream or something, cool. Like, I'm not going to forbid myself from doing that. But if I'm doing it for just the sake of you know for the sake of eating, or closing myself off from others, emotionally, and things like that, that's what was a real detriment, previously. And yeah, just giving yourself that freedom to just be like, yeah, cool, I want an ice cream.
Yeah, totally. That's amazing. Like all of those things that you started to fill that time with, and that you're now able to like accomplish with the energy that you have, the space that you have. And I totally get also what you're saying as far as it's a little bittersweet. That was one of the things that binge eating was for me. It filled that like little space of just something I could rely on at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Um, and that's part of why it can be hard to let go of, but also it's like, gosh, it's like similar to many other addictions where like the other side is incredible. It's like
Mhm.
connecting with people you love and letting go of secrecy and doing more of the things that you wanted to accomplish in your life. And so that's amazing. So Awesome. So then, and I wanted to ask you, what would you say is the best part to you, or the best thing that you've gotten out of this program?
I think the best thing is just it's going to sound a little cliche, but realizing that I know I'm not the only one who struggled with this, but just knowing that there is help available, and it's not something that, like you're saying, like, oh my gosh, I have to, do this daily schedule or eat this or don't do that or go here or go there. It really just introduced, when I first signed up for it, it was just like, all right, just put yourself out there, and this might be embarrassing or overwhelming, or, there were some times where, may I confess to you that, oh, I didn't get some of the like kind of the homework done or read everything. And I think that was the thing going into it. It was like I didn't want to feel like it was something I could fail, like a diet plan or something. But what I found is this was something that you can't really, everyone has a different path.
Mhm.
It might be, viewed as failure, but I don't think anyone could do your program and really, you know, everyone's going to get something out of it. You know, I don't think it's necessarily going to be right for everyone, but it's something that really made me sit back and kind of examine some of my choices, and, not stress over the past, but really make me think, what I can be doing, with my life, and, making these small changes. But yeah, definitely the thing was, knowing I wasn't alone as someone who has struggled with this, but also knowing that, there's help out there to overcome it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Awesome. And what is next for you that you're excited about?
Um, Gosh, I mean, fall's coming up. I'm actually looking forward to this weekend going to buy some new clothes, because that's another thing, struggling with body image and, disordered eating is I never wanted to buy any new clothes until I felt like I was, a size or a shape that was my ideal. But the the downside is there's not, I was never going to get to that point in my mind that, you know, it would just always be, lose more weight or look this way. But I think that's the freeing thing is like, I can actually buy clothes that feel comfortable, and I'm not going to buy something that's too small with the idea of trying to fit into it. Like, I want to go get clothes that are comfortable and I'm not tugging at them, or they're not too small and they just hang up and they're like a goal, thing to wear. Like, I actually am just going to go and, be happy with myself as I am while still making improvements to myself, and, live my best life.
Wow, awesome. Live your best life. Yeah. And it sounds like doing things that represent loving you now as you
Mhm.
are. That's fantastic. So I just have one more question for you, and that
Sure.
is, to the people watching here. Um, Anything you'd like to say to them, and also what you would recommend to someone who is thinking about getting that support, thinking about doing this program, what would you say?
Yeah, I would, as someone who really struggled with this for literally over half my life. Yeah, there were times where I would go back and forth and say like, okay, I'll deal with it, or I don't need help. I'll figure this out on my own. I think there's some certain times where you just have to resign yourself to realize that, that things are really, you know, affecting your life negatively. And like, food is awesome. I love food. Um, but as any other thing that, you can be, um, just too, invested in or involved with, or using that as, an emotional crutch, or, something that's self-soothing. Um, just be open to that vulnerability of saying like, I might, this is something that's really affecting my life or affecting my relationships with people. And there is a level of kind of embarrassment to sometimes say that, you're dealing with this. But from what I found out, even with working with you. It's just so incredibly common in our society as far as binging and people not even taking it seriously or and kind of being secretive about it. So I think that would be my thing is just you might have to just kind of step out there, and it's hard to even sometimes admit to yourself that you do need help, like in anything in life. Sometimes saying that I don't have all the answers and I really think I might need some guidance with this. That's always, I think, sometimes the first most difficult step. And accepting help too, not just asking for it, but being able to accept it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know for me that was huge, is just being able to say like, hey, like it's okay that I need help. It's okay that I
Yeah,
would like some support here. Yeah, that's so huge. And yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. Anything
of
else
course.
that you wanted to say, Marissa?
I don't think so. I just I'm always happy to talk with you. I feel like after every session where we talked, I just really um just had a lot of reflection, and it just really made me think about kind of you know in hindsight, I don't have any regrets, or I wish I had approached you sooner. But that's when I got your contact information and kind of started reading your information, I started to think like this is the program that is going to be most helpful to me after all this time of trying to quote manage it myself.
Yeah, totally. Well, and you were actually incredibly, I would say, quick about jumping on it once you had decided that, which I think is awesome. Because hey, it got you the support you needed and got you there
Mhm.
faster. And that's another thing I think that's just nice about like this kind of relationship is it's like it's not that it isn't possible to do this kind of thing on your own, but God, it can be hard.
Yeah.
And it's like can be so much easier and faster if you have someone holding your hand and being with you. Um,
Yeah.
just getting to
Yeah.
have a connection. I've really enjoyed all of our conversations as well, and really enjoy like your own insights into your life and kind of how you take it on. And you did a great job of not just really implementing it in like binge eating, but like throughout your life, which was really cool to see. So um, awesome. Thank you so much, Marissa, for your time today. I know I want to get you out in the sunshine.
Yeah, no worries. You're
uh,
very welcome.
yeah, and I appreciate you. And yeah, have a great Friday.
Thanks, you too.
All right, we'll talk soon, okay?
All right.
All right, bye.
Bye.